Amigos, your relationship needs support. And when I think back to the beginning years of my marriage, where my husband and I were having the most amount of arguments and the least amount of sex, we needed help overcoming the number one issue in our relationship. And to do that, we needed to do something radically different than what we were already trying. You see, even dramatically different than what the generations before us were doing. And that support came in the form of marriage therapy. Marriage therapy was the game changer for my relationship. It allowed my partner and I to finally take a step back and have somebody else walk us through what was actually going on. And eventually we realized that most of the issues that we had with each other had actually nothing to do with the other person, but more so to do with our own unhealed trauma and our own things that we hadn't taken the time to process, but somehow was still showing up in our marriage. And that's why I love BetterHelp. You see, BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a large range of issues. To get started, you just have to answer a couple of questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however way you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or even a video call. You can even message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can totally switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from an in-office therapy, but with a therapist that is custom picked just for you. More scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to my link, betterhelp.com/Karina F. Daves. That's BetterHelp, BETTER, help.com/Karina, F as in Frank, Daves. The link to this coupon is right here in my show notes. Amigos, at this point, you've tried it all in your relationship and nothing is working. You don't have anything to lose by asking for the support you know you need in the form of therapy. And what a better way to do that than with BetterHelp. Coming up on the Relationships You Understand podcast. Setting goals so far in advance, especially when you are trying to figure out if this person is the one, doesn't give you the answers that you need. Instead, I want you to create goals next month, right? In order to be able to tell what to do with your relationship now. Okay. And it's going to give you the answers of like, not just how do we work together, but does this person commit to their goals? Does this person commit to our goals? How seriously do they treat what it is that we've decided we're going to do together? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Karina F. Daves, relationship coach and speaker, where I help women stop arguing with their partners so that they can have more sex. Because who doesn't want to have more sex? One of the biggest things that women struggle with is a lack of satisfaction in their relationship. It's our best kept secret, and I know this because it used to be me. You see, I was a checklist human obsessed with the many achievements we're pressed to accomplish. Getting degrees, getting married, having children, buying a home. And after all it was achieved, I still felt empty inside. And so I looked to my partner to fulfill me. And this is when the arguing started in my marriage. It wasn't until I stopped blaming my marriage and finally decided to take a deeper look into myself, to work on my own need for control, my perfectionism, and to work on my own unhealed trauma, that I realized in order for my marriage to be better, it required a better me. Join me each week where I will be your personal relationship expert, coaching you through unpacking and processing your identity, values, and standards to resolve the number one conflict in your relationship, because a better relationship begins with a better you. Whether you're deep in your marriage or on the road to one, I will help you reflect on who you are, both in your partnership and outside of it. I know so many of us are struggling with this in such a private way, but believe me, a better relationship is possible, but it also starts with you. Are you willing to do the work? Welcome to Relationships You Understand? If you're loving this podcast and enjoying the juicy relationship gems, then head over to follow me on my socials at Karina F. Daves on Instagram and TikTok. Head over to my website, karinafdaves.com, and subscribe to my newsletter, Release Your Relationship, where I share weekly relationship advice on how to overcome the number one issue in your relationship. If you're really enjoying this podcast, don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or even Spotify. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and share it with all of your amigos. Reviews are such a personal way to hear your voice and interact with our community. Thanks so much for listening. And now, the Relationships You Understand podcast. Amigos, ¿cómo están? Welcome back to Relationships You Understand with your host, me, Karina F. Daves, speaker, relationship expert, and podcast host of this dope podcast. So today we're going to continue our series, Spring Cleaning Your Relationship. This is part 3. What are your goals next month? So I've been doing a series called Spring Cleaning Your Relationship, where I am giving you tools and steps to be able to stop and basically ask your relationship, what are we doing here? We spent some time talking about our values, which was last week. And then we spent some time talking about, like, how do we imagine growing old together, loving each other? Like, what is it that we want, right, out of this? Because sometimes you can be on a sort of content ride with your partner where you just become used to being with them and you don't ask the harder questions. So this series is meant to ride y'all through how to ask the difficult questions and how to navigate those conversations. And for the sake of time, they are very short episodes. So we're just going to get right into it. Spring cleaning your relationship. What are your goals next month? So let me be clear why I call it next month. You see, most couples create goals in advance. And what I mean by that is they tell themselves, okay, what do we want to do in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, right? And so a lot of big ideas come into place. And by big ideas, I mean also big purchases. We want to buy a home in 5 years. We want to have our first kid in 7 years. We want to be able to, purchase our dream car in, the next 5 years. We want to be able to, move up the corporate ladder to a VP position in 5 or 7 years, like things of that nature. Couples will automatically create goals very far in advance. Now, that is not a bad thing. However, when you are trying to figure out if this is the person for you, you need to be able to measure and assess your productivity, your commitment, all of those things much more quicker than 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. You understand? And so I'm not saying that the 5 and 10, 15-year goals of the huge purchases and the huge promotions and the dream house and everything that you want, that's not a bad thing. But when you are making these in advance goals in your relationship, they pretty much still are a fantasy, and you are creating very small steps in order to watch them be achieved over a period of time. And what happens, especially in relationships when you've been together for a while, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, is you might forget those goals, right? Or you're like, hey, remember we wanted to buy a house? Like, what are we supposed to do with that again? And so there's a lot of recalibration. And then that plays into the role with you of deciding if you want to be with this person. You're like, yeah, but we have this goal. We have this goal. But that goal takes years to achieve and is going to be more difficult for you to be able to decide now if this person is the one that you want to end up with, if the person now is the one that you want to be with for the rest of your life. You understand? And so what I'm offering as a relationship expert and what I offer my clients is for you to start making goals next month. So what I want you to do is sit down with your partner and decide what are your goals for next month, okay? And what that means is y'all taking time to be able to measure how much you can accomplish in the next month, right? And here's the thing, like, you may call it goals, other people may call it achievements. You can call it whatever is comfortable for your relationship. But when you are spring cleaning your relationship, the reason why you need goals that are for next month is for 3 things. You need to be able to see if you can take action as a couple, right? Or as an individual, right? How do you work together? You need to be able to see commitment as an individual and as a couple. And you need to be able to see if you can hold each other accountable. When you are creating goals in the next month, you can quickly see each other's commitment, each other's action, and how you hold each other accountable individually or how you hold the other person accountable. Now, what happens when you set goals for the next month is that it adds sort of a layer of pressure. This is my favorite part. This pressure is a good thing. It allows you a tunnel vision into your relationship to be able to see how you all both handle pressure, tension. How do you handle those conversations? Are you controlling with these goals next month? Are you a micromanager? Are you the type of person that sits back and forgets about them? Or do you work as a team together? Are you a unit? Are you cohesive? Do you communicate? Do you see how having goals in your relationship next month create answers for you that you need now, rather than creating goals that can't be attained over the next 5 or 10 years, and it's very difficult to measure and give you the answers you need now? Do you understand? Do you see the difference there? When you create goals in the next month in your relationship, you are able to see each other's commitment, each other's action steps, and each other's accountability for how you hold each other accountable or how you hold yourself accountable. Those right there will give you the answers in your relationship immediately to tell if this is the person for you. Again, I do not want you to stop setting goals, bigger goals in 5 and 10 years. Those goals are very beautiful goals, but setting goals so far in advance, especially when you are trying to figure out if this person is the one, doesn't give you the answers that you need. Instead, I want you to create goals next month, right? In order to be able to tell what to do with your relationship now. Okay. And it's going to give you the answers of like, not just how do we work together, but does this person commit to their goals? Does this person commit to our goals? How do they treat, how seriously do they treat what it is that we've decided we're going to do together? Hola, amiga. Here's the thing. You've mastered everything else in your life but your relationship. You and your partner are not as intimate as you used to be. You are both stuck in this awful cycle of arguing that starts with bickering and ends with your routine blowups every few months. Every single time that you bring up an issue looking to resolve it, they feel like you're complaining, and then you begin to distance yourself. You feel like you're living with a roommate rather than your life partner. Your relationship, amiga, needs comprehension. Comprehension allows you and your partner to forgive each other quicker. Comprehension allows you and your partner to prioritize each other again. Comprehension is the very thing that will allow you both to give each other the space you need during those blowups. It stops the cycle of arguing. In my private one-on-one coaching program, I help women just like you come up with the exact communication strategies to begin to comprehend their partners and have their partners comprehend them. I will tell you the issues about your relationship that will take your couples therapist 6 months to tell you in just the very first session. It only takes one person in the relationship to do the work for there to be any progress. Either way, you will grow, and that is what is important. Through a mixture of one-on-one coaching, relationship framework, and plenty of aha moments, you'll finally be able to understand your triggers more deeply and decrease the time you spend arguing with your partner. You'll become more of an active listener versus being offended all the time. I want to help you stop arguing on the way to date night and actually have energy for post-date night activities, if you know what I mean. I'm on a mission to show women like you how to talk to their partners in a way that moves the needle for your relationship, rather than leaving you stuck in this toxic cycle of arguing. I know many of us are struggling with this in such a private way, but believe me, a better relationship is possible, but it begins with you. So let's work together. I want to help you. go to the link in the podcast notes to book a sales call where we'll talk about everything that's happened so far, what you've tried, and how I can help. I can't wait to work with you to get you and your partner to stop arguing and have more sex. I can't wait to meet you. All right, you understand? It's a very simple way to spring clean your relationship. Okay, now we're going to get into the question of the week that was sent to me. That says, here we go. This is actually a good one. It's about long distance relationships. It says, I'm in a long distance relationship for about 3 years and things are going pretty good. But sometimes we fight about the smallest things. And I feel like it's because we're long distance and sometimes we don't have a lot to talk about, which frustrates her. Do you have some tips on communication? Okay, this is so good. So this person is in a long distance relationship for about 3 years. Things are usually pretty good. They fight about the smallest things and they feel like it's because they're long distance and don't really have much to talk about, which frustrates the partner. And they want tips on communication. So this is really good. Here's what I'll say. Yes, you both not being physically together is something that could cause, arguing and frustration and tension. But I'll tell you this, it isn't the core issue because even when y'all are together, you will also spend a lot of time apart, right? Let's say they decide to get married or whatnot. You will need this training of not being together. So I don't want you to focus so much on the fact that being long distance is a problem. And here's not just that version, not just that answer, but here's also why. I also don't want you to focus on the fact that long distance is a problem because you decided to enter a long distance relationship. Okay. The reason why it's the first thing that you make it a problem as the fact that you're long distance is because the intentions in the relationship aren't clear. When the intentions and the setup of the relationship are very clear, you won't argue so intensely about that being a problem. If you and I both know that we are committed to having a long distance relationship and this is what we do, yeah, it might frustrate us in the sense of like, I wish I could see you. I wish I could hug you. I miss you so much, but it is not the core issue. Okay. And so he says, I feel like we don't have a lot to talk about. Listen, the reason why you have a lot to talk about, I'm going to tell you why, is because everybody grows and changes. And even me, who's known my husband since I was 13, we've been married for 12. Um, don't worry, there was a lot of time in between. He always says that I've been married to 20 something versions of you. And that's the reality. You are married to different versions of a person because they grow. And so in your relationship, you grow, they grow. There are things that you are doing on a daily basis. That are the things that you can talk about. Those are the things that you can talk about. You can talk about each other's goals. You can talk about visions. You can talk about your family members. You can talk about your values. You can talk about money values. You can talk about dreams. You can talk about the next time that you will meet up and how that will happen. You can talk about a lot of different things. And now I hear this person saying, we've already done that. Okay, that's great. There's more, right? Your money, because all of these things can also change. And so some tips that I will say that you can start to even talk about with your partner is how do you imagine this relationship working out, right? Am I still the person that you want to be with? And here's the thing, you're like, that's really deep. Yeah, it's important. It's 3 years in. I want you to have these conversations about about the deepness. If we actually want to be together, if we nitpick so much and it creates huge blowups, is there something clearly bigger wrong in our relationship that we haven't tackled yet? Let's talk about that. And the only way that we can do that is over the phone or on FaceTime. Okay. And I think a lot of the times, especially in long distance relationships, it's really easy to feel like an afterthought because you want that person, because you can't physically see that person. You want that person to make you their world, their priority. And what I want you to understand is like, their commitment to you is definitely a priority, but necessarily, it doesn't mean that you need to be the first person that they think about, the first person that they, take action for. Like, allow this partner to breathe and you to breathe too, because that's how you can remain in your individuality. You understand? Okay. So I hope that answers this question. I'm going to contact this person back. If you have questions about your relationship, you can DM them to me. You can email them to me to team@karinafdaves.com. I want you to know if right now you are having trouble communicating with your partner and deciding whether or not this is the relationship for you, I want to work with you in my private one-on-one coaching program over the course of the next 3 months to figure out the exact communication strategies it's going to take for you to figure out if this is the one. I want to figure out, how to rediscover your values, how to rediscover your identity, and really how to rediscover your standards for relationships and love. You understand? Okay. My name's Karina F. Days. I'm a relationship expert, a speaker, and the podcast host of this dope podcast, Relationships You Understand. And the last thing that I'll do is pray for y'all really quick. So, Father God, thank you so much for bringing all of us together. Lord, I asked for such a heavy spirit of discernment to be over us and clarity. Not only that, Lord, but I think it's really important to know that how much you give us discernment and tell us what we should be doing, but that can only be matched with obedience. So today I pray for clarity and obedience, for us to be obedient to the path that you have for us. All right. I ask all of this in your name. Amen. Okay. I love you so much. If you love this podcast, make sure you subscribe to it on Apple iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Make sure you leave a review. Make sure you share it with all of your amigos. I primarily live here on Instagram or TikTok. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and really have the opportunity to continue serving y'all. So next week, we have our last part of this series, Spring Cleaning Your Relationship. And I can't wait to work with you. I can't wait to see you and meet you. Any questions you have, please send them my way. All right. I love you so much. Bye. If you're loving this podcast and enjoying the juicy relationship gems, then head over to follow me on my socials at Karina F. Daves on Instagram and TikTok. Head over to my website, Karina F. Daves, and subscribe to my newsletter, Release Your Relationship, where I share weekly relationship advice on how to overcome the #1 relationship issue. If you're really enjoying this podcast, don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and share it with all of your amigos. Reviews are such a personal way to hear your voice and interact with our community. Thanks so much for listening to the show and can't wait to have you back again. I love you so much.